At the end of every life, as he lay dying, as he drew his final breath, a voice whispered in his ear, "I have won again, Nerdporeal." Flicker, 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 flicker.
The following program is rated TV MAL. It contains strong language and nudity. It is intended only for mature audiences. Viewer discretion advised.
What's up, guys? Welcome to another Chillporeal. With me, I have Pips. This is his second time, right, Pips?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to keep track. I've been on your channel so many times, but I think second chill stream. Yeah.
Yeah. How many times have you? Yeah, I'm curious. What was our first stream together?
Our first stream together was potentially.
Was the House of the Dragon? Was the House of the Dragon?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. And then ever since then, it's been an epic. It's been an epic collaboration, epic friendship, don't you say?
I think so. I'm trying to think. Did you do your first Wheel of Time book stream before House of the Dragon, or the other way around?
I think it was after. That's
what I think too. What I think too. So I think it was House of the Dragon. Yeah.
So, by the way, Bell Morden's here. What's up, Bell Morden? I forget if does Bell Morden go by another name? I forget. Whatever. I was curious. What was your first? Was your first stream the rewatch that you guys did on the White Cloaks?
Oh, that was definitely.
Were you on Prophet? Were you on Prophet's channel? That's where I think I first saw you. Was you were on Prophet's channel? And I think he was celebrating his 1,000 subscriber, his monetization or something.
So, I've been on other people's channels and stuff. The first video that we ever posted was episode 1 of the rewatch, the tainted rewatches. But hey, DJ Ronnie G, Bell Morden, good to see you guys. I feel like I'd be remiss in not explaining why we're so late.
So yeah, why are we late, Pips?
Why are we late? So you guys all know, our host here, the Nerdporeal Life Form, he's a professional YouTuber. He schedules things, shows up on time, all that kind of stuff. I am doing this out of a dingy hotel room, hence the no camera. And my flight got delayed in like every possible way. So I was flying out here. They held us in the plane on the tarmac, like you read about. People are like trapped in there, and, like no food for hours and stuff like that. But they let us use the bathroom, which was nice. So like held on the tarmac, and then we get released, and then we take off. We fly up here, and then we get held by ATC. They put us in holding, and the pilot is coming on, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, like we don't know how much longer they're going to keep us in holding, but like if it goes on too much longer, we're going to have to divert somewhere else for fuel." I'm like, oh my gosh, this is, just exactly how this is going to go. Like I'm going to land in some other city and have to get fuel. And then this whole thing's going to hell in a handbasket. And then getting out of the airport was just a pain. Getting the rental vehicle and all that kind of stuff just ended up taking forever. So all of that is to say we're late because first and foremost, all of the things that I did, the Nerdporeal, he obviously a good dude. He would be on time. So it was yours truly here making us late. Also, I think United Airlines regional operator GoJet. I think those dudes, although realistically it sounds like it was the FAA, they held us because the destination airport was backed up. And so they were refusing our takeoff clearance and all that stuff to start with. So there you go.
Well, that was quite the sounds like quite the journey. So, well, we're happy you made it. You're here, and you're going to be getting some pizza shortly, aren't you?
Oh man, yeah. I haven't eaten anything all day because I've been fasting for Lent, and then I didn't get to eat because I was on an airplane, and then a rental car, and then all the other. So here I am about to get like the last pizza that the crappy Pizza Hut delivery that is the only place that delivers at this time of night in this location. So yeah, I'm gonna get gross Pizza Hut. But you know what? It's food, and at this point, that's pretty much the best thing.
So my question, so you said you're fasting. So what's your window for fasting? I know you mentioned it earlier. I forgot what it was like. You only have like a 2-hour window or something. It's an intermittent type of fasting.
I just I limit myself to just one meal a day, and I do it like evening after sunset. So
okay. Because I'm trying to see if I can do the same thing. I've only had one meal myself today, so
there's no real rhyme or reason. Like a lot of people do intermittent fasting and stuff like that, and they do it for health reasons or whatever, right? Like
yeah,
I don't do it really for health reasons. It's like I said, I'm fasting for Lent, but it's more a thing that it's an inconvenience in your day that you have to kind of plan around, especially doing it with based on like sunset versus like a time, because most people are like, I like to have dinner at 5:30 or 9 or whatever the heck it is, right? But by doing it based on something else, you have to, especially I do a lot of travel, so I'm always like, what time is sunset today? But for Belmore there, better stuck on the ground than stuck in the air. Well, I mean, the only kind of getting stuck is getting stuck in the ground. There is no such thing as being stuck in the air.
Oh boy. So I know the last I know when I came over to when I came over to you, you gave up drinking for Lent, which was much to my annoyance because I was hoping we'd have drinks together. Well, actually we did. I drank and you were.
1 second. I think my pizza might be here.
All right. Well, looks like
hold that thought.
Yeah, of course. So, by the way, what's going on, guys? Just wanted to say hi. Sorry about the cancellation last week. I got hit with the flu. I'm still feeling some of the effects of it, but I have been back. I've been going for walks again. I've been doing stuff. I still have the cough though, so I might accidentally cough or something. So, but yeah, so I did finish this. So me and Pips are going to talk about this. We're going to be talking about the Fires of Heaven. I just finished this book just within the last hour or so. So I got to see the ending. I got to see Robin's demise. I got to see setup for the next book. The final chapter is going to be setting up for the next book, obviously. So I was right. So apparently Mass from Time is going to be a major player as along with Davram Bashir. Those two are going to be players in the next book, so I'm curious where Lord of Chaos is going to go. So, of course, I know Lord of Chaos is supposed to be the high point. Yeah, so I hear Lord of Chaos is supposed to be the high point of the series, and I think last time, Pips, you yourself said like it's some of the best stuff that Robert Jordan's ever written.
I always go kind of like back and forth on this, right? Because I maintain that like my favorite book in the Wheel of Time is the book that I'm reading right now.
Like Robert Jordan's favorite book is the book that he's writing right now. Yeah, I see where you're going.
Pretty much. I will say though that like, so what's going to happen after Lord of Chaos is some of the characters, particularly Elaine, Nynaeve, and Egwene, are going to start having like much more prominent plot lines. They're going to take up a lot more of the like narrative time. And then Perrin is going to be off doing a thing, and they're all going to be scattered everywhere. And then for a lot of the readers who, especially like started reading this series when they did, like, back in the 90s, early 2000s, mostly boys reading this series, myself included. in case you wanted to assume my gender.
I would never do such a thing.
Well, now you can't because I told you.
Well, I would never anyways.
It's a change of pace and a departure from like, it's not the Rand, Matt, and Perrin story anymore. And I think on a first reading, like that made it kind of slow. Like it made it kind of like drag a bit, I guess. But like I actually really enjoy it on rereads. I like those parts of the story, at least by and large. And even found myself enjoying Crossroads of Twilight this last read through, which I will give you a heads up. You're not going to like Crossroads of Twilight on a first read. Sorry.
That's what everybody says. So I have no reason to disagree with that. So
I mean, I don't want to say like there are people who like get all wrapped up about the slog and shit like that. Like I'm not going to like shit on it. It's just that it's a lot of specifically Elaine and kind of a slow part of a Perrin storyline and some Egwene stuff. Like it's just a lot of it. And the biggest thing is that Winter's Heart like ends and you're like, damn, like what's going to happen next? And then Crossroads of Twilight and Winter's Heart was originally written as one book and it got split, right? And so the result is that like Crossroads of Twilight retreads a lot of the ground from Winter's Heart from different perspectives. And so when you finish Winter's Heart and that's the climax and you're just like, well, shit, what happens next? And you kind of have to wait until Knife of Dreams to like get a lot of the stuff that you want. So.
Yeah. So I remember, I forget if it was split by characters, like certain characters weren't in Winter's Heart. And that's what Crossroads of Twilight kind of fills in.
Yes.
Okay. And I was talking to Dane about this. Apparently it's harder to determine because I mean, I've read books 4 and 5 of Song of Ice and Fire during both of my rereads. I never read them as individual books. So I was asking Dane if it's possible to do that with those 2 books. And he says so far, no, he hasn't really been able to figure out a way to read them or chapter order to read them.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the reason being is that I think originally maybe it was one book and then Robert Jordan probably made the decision to split them pretty early on and then expanded them into 2 books, right? So like, they don't actually fully overlap in events, right? So it's kind of like 1.5 books with like a fair amount of overlap. So like the first half of Crossroads of Twilight is other people's perspectives of the second half of Winter's Heart, if that makes sense. Like I think that's kind of the way it works.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't ever really thought about like trying to read them, side by side, if that makes sense. So I'm maybe not the best answer on it.
Okay, that's fine. So I figured since we didn't have a chance to talk about, since you haven't been on the Fires of Heaven, let's talk Fires of Heaven. What do you think of the book from what you remember?
Well, I think that's the wrong way to approach this, right? So I think you should tell me, now that you have reached the mountaintop and you have finished Fires of Heaven, why don't you tell me?
I want to hear your thoughts before I give you mine. That's why you're the guest. Yeah, you have to answer my questions first.
Okay. I mean, I think Fires of Heaven is a strong entry in the series. It's not my favorite of the first 6 books. I'd say among the first 6 books, I think The Dragon Reborn and Fires of Heaven are probably my 2 least favorite of the first 6. But I think the first 6 are among the strongest in the series, especially like taken as a collective like sequence.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, like I like Fires of Heaven. It ends on a real up note. A lot of really good stuff happens in it. You see a lot of development, especially of kind of our main characters. And you see kind of a power upgrade, right? Like, it's really an upshift in terms of the stakes, the power, like, everything's going on. And you can kind of see some of the plot lines developing really now. But yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. There's so much to talk about. And it's hard for me to necessarily talk about Fires of Heaven without maybe talking about spoilers for other books that you're going to read, which is part of the reason I think maybe you should kind of lead the discussion about it so that I can, respond to what you're reading and try to limit my inherent maybe spoiler comments.
Sure. Yeah, because I think I've learned a few spoilers from watching your rewatches. I think specifically.
Well, I did warn you. I did warn you that those were full spoilers.
You did. And I stopped. So
not because of the spoilers, just because it was painful to watch. The production qualities were that weak. It was just terrible.
I going through this book, I mean, there's no, I mean, my disappointment is minimal because I tempered my expectations this time compared to the Shadow Rising. Shadow Rising, I was expecting this beast of a book. And in some ways, I mean, from your perspective, a lot of people's perspective, it was a beast of a book, especially, I guess, on rereads. I mean, there were strong parts of it. And thinking back to it, there was a lot of things I did. There were a lot of chapters I did like, but there were a lot of chapters I just was like, yeah. I was just like, yeah, like they were just, maybe they were underwhelming. I don't know how to describe it. I was bored. I was bored with some of them, but there were some good ones. The parent stuff, for instance, I thought was the strongest in the book, and that's probably what made it really stand out. And I've said this on other streams. I've said that, the way of the leaf stuff and just what that does to certain characters was, I thought was very compelling, and it got my attention and made me care about, like, the character Aram I never thought I'd ever care about. And then there was that scene with him and his grandparents, which reflects the scene with Aiden and his grandson Lewin from the Glass Columns, Rand's ancestors, and them dealing with the way of the leaf. Lewin goes and rescues his sister, and then he brings her back. Some of them, one or two of his friends are dead, and his grandfather's like, "What did you do? We do not do this. Be gone from me. Do not look upon me again." And then that's where the whole, the Aiel cover themselves. Dane had to point that one out to me. So, but I thought that was probably the one thing that I probably that's probably the one thing I probably remembered the most from that book. It was maybe it was, I don't know what it was. Strongly resonated. It was something I just thought it just made me care.
Well, I mean,
it was a very poignant moment.
You got to remember that Robert Jordan has said that of the three boys, there is maybe the most of kind of Perrin in him. So, and Perrin's struggle with,
violence,
right, is I think a thing from Robert Jordan's experience, right?
I remember you doing that stream, and you were basically reading quotes of Robert Jordan, and I remember him saying, what he was, I forget, there was a picture, took a picture of himself with a whole bunch of bodies or something, and he realized going back home, he had to kind of bury that part of himself in Vietnam, and if I remember correctly, stab that part of him with a dagger and bury it in Vietnam or leaving or something. I forget exactly how it was worded, how you worded it. The voice of Robert Jordan, ladies and gentlemen, Pips.
Terrible. We need better voice actors. So the point I was going to is that, Perrin's struggle with violence is not like Rand's struggle and Matt's struggle, right?
I do have a question. One thing that's been pretty prominent, and I'm assuming this doesn't apply to Perrin, but Matt and Rand refuse to hurt women, to kill women, to hurt women, no matter what. I forget if Perrin has that same thing or no. I can't recall.
I mean, it hasn't been demonstrated in the same way.
Yeah.
And I think for Matt, it is not the same as Rand's either, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rand, and you can already see it developing, right? Rand is going to get to the point where you're like, hey, dude, there are women who are trying to kill you called the Forsaken, and like maybe you shouldn't, be quite so worried about fighting women because like they're going to kill you if you don't kill them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Matt, I think, is intrinsically like more sort of interested in saving his own skin, not in like a bad way, right? But like Matt is a little more of a realist, and
He's not a hero. He's not a hero. He's
exactly,
not a hero.
he's not a hero. He's like, nope. So he doesn't go. He goes out of his way, I think, to avoid hurting women, and like you see him thinking about the problem and stuff like that. But like at the end of the day, he's not going to let himself get killed to not kill a woman or hurt a woman.
Yeah.
And then I think you'll see Perrin. You'll see how Perrin kind of deals with that stuff as his character gets fully fleshed out. But
yeah, I actually thought the like parents stuff, especially as early as the Out of the World, if I remember correctly, him and Elias having a conversation just about him like if you feel too comfortable with that axe, you got to get rid of it and everything. So,
something to again talk about the Eye of the World, right?
yeah.
Do you remember the scene with them watching the crows kill the fox?
Yes. And he was willing to kill Egwene if they came for her.
Mm-hmm.
And there was no hope. There was no hope of escape. He would end her, give her a quick death.
Yeah. Do you think
as opposed to what the crows would do?
Do you think that Rand or Matt would have been able to make that same decision?
No.
Yeah, I'd agree.
So that's probably yeah. So that's probably why I was always curious if that ever pops up or anything. So, but yeah, I mean that stuff I actually find really interesting. I really enjoyed the early books for sure.
Yep.
This one, the Fires of Heaven, I did not expect. I was not really expecting much based on the Shadow Rising. I read it, and I was like, okay, I think I know where this is going. Especially within the early chapters, you get a great chapter about Balefire. I love that chapter with the Dark Hounds.
Yeah.
And then Moraine explaining the nature of Balefire and what it does to the pattern and all that. And I actually needed it. I didn't even quite understand it right away. I had to have it explained to me. So the stronger it is, the further back in time the target ceases to exist. But yet the memories around that remain.
Yes. Sort of. So the memories remaining is a little bit questionable because you get kind of this like almost like double vision sort of thing, right? Where like you remember things, but you don't because you also remember the things that now happened because that person ceased to exist, right? So like you don't have a clear memory of what happened, right?
Yeah.
And in a strong enough sort of situation, it might rend the pattern so much that like you don't even like that it can't kind of backfill the memories that you're supposed to have, if that makes sense, right? So like there's going to be varying levels of disruption in memories and that kind of stuff. But the other thing, and this is I think important, and I'll bring this up here just because I know myself, and I think actually most readers honestly didn't understand what Balefire did for a very long time because of one of two things. Either Robert Jordan retconned it, or it just was not precisely explained correctly. So in the books, you get the impression that like if you get Balefired, then like your string is gone forever. Like no rebirth for you. Like you are burned out of the pattern, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that the impression that you got?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the impression that you get, like, hey, why does Balefire, kill the Forsaken, right? And people are like, oh, well, because you're completely burned away. You're removed from the pattern, so you can't be brought back by the dark one, because there's nothing to bring back. You were destroyed utterly, right?
Yeah.
Well, in reality, the way that it actually works is you're not burned out of the pattern. The death, the physical killing of you happened in the past. And so the reason that the Dark One can't bring back someone who was killed by Balefire is not because of this idea of like their thread being burned away. Like they'll be reborn again in some future age, right?
Yeah.
What actually it is that the Dark One, when he reaches in to touch the pattern, has to interact with time. And so essentially, if he's got his hand on the threads of the pattern, when you kill someone in the past, he can't catch them as they die and put into a new body. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Basically, like, so he's there waiting to like catch their soul and put it into a new body if you stab it with a sword or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
if you kill it in the past, when he sees them die in the present because you shot them with balefire and tries to grab them, they're already dead from before. So he can't. Does that make sense? It's a little hard to describe. The main reason that it's important, and the main reason that I think this might have been a refinement or a retcon, if you will, from Robert Jordan, is just the sort of metaphysics of it. If Balefire worked the way that the books imply that they do, not like super clear information, so it's could be a refinement, not a retcon. But if Balefire worked that way, where like you're utterly obliterated, you can never be reborn, right? Then over the infinite turnings of the wheel, you would be left with no people left because everyone would have been Balefired at somewhere in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. Like they're kind of taken out of the picture. They're taken out of time, out of the pattern.
Yep.
In other words, so they're not there to be picked up and taken back. They're brought back to life. So that's pretty much what you're getting at, right? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I get it.
Okay. Maybe you understood it intrinsically within the fandom until Robert Jordan said that at a Q&A. Most people did not understand that as being the mechanic of Balefire.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, and because of like, so I forget. So you said this was his way of retconning it, because I know they used it in the third book, in the Dragon Reborn, and he had to give it a reason why people don't use it that much, or why it's forbidden.
Well, it's forbidden because, like I said, very large amounts.
I heard like cities disappear. I hear cities disappear.
So
like shifts.
The unraveling effect is so large that the fear was that, instead of being able to kind of backfill the events that took place with that person now gone, that you would actually literally rip the pattern apart. That you would break the wheel and rip the pattern, because so many threads were cut all at once, and like it couldn't backfill. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Well, this is a shame. You said you had the Dragon Ball manga, right?
I did, yeah.
The author of Dragon Ball passed away.
Oh,
it's a shame. It's a real shame, because I know they were writing. I know he was writing more Dragon Ball, so I enjoyed the latest.
He was writing more Dragon Ball. That
series, yeah. They came out with a series called Dragon Ball Super. They came out with a series where they go against different universes.
Wasn't the end of Dragon Ball Z?
I guess, I have no idea. I never read the manga, so I'll assume it was. So, but yeah, so that's a shame. It's a shame. So,
And Bill Morden's point, I think, is largely correct, that like part of the misunderstandings that happen sometimes in the book, it's hard to tell. Like, it could be that it was a retcon. Oftentimes, though, it's actually, and we know this from, if you believe Robert Jordan when he says this, and I think you should, it's not that he retconned things. It's often that he had characters give explanations for things that were based on their imperfect knowledge. And so the reader is left with imperfect knowledge. And later they find out, oh, look at that, Aes Sedai are full of shit again.
Yeah, I mean, and it was pointed out in this book, in the Fires of Heaven, quite a bit. Like Aes Sedai are telling Rand stuff, and Rand's like, he's like, Aes Sedai, wise ones, they're telling him how things are, and he's like, maybe not so much. And then you have Nynaeve, the other big story in this book. She wants to she wants to find out, she wants to learn about stilling and gentling. So I'm assuming that's going to be a thing later in the book. So according to Aes Sedai, there's nothing that can be done. Is there? That's the question. So, and I'm assuming, like you said, I think they know everything, but they probably don't know shit. And Steve has kind of beat me over the head on this one quite a bit. So I'm assuming all the stuff that has been, declared and is known might get to be unknown, or not unknown, but
so what you think that, like,
I think that things that people believe in the early books turn out not to be true, and that things can be done for certain things. Solutions can be solved.
So are you predicting then that, like, Rand or maybe someone else is gonna, like, be able to bring people back from the dead, like, like, because there are things that have been said, like, nope, you can't do it. Like, your thing is, like, whenever someone says you can't do it, you think that's a plant for it can be done. Like, what are you thinking?
Well, I'm thinking, like, for instance, like, how gentling is considered, or gentling or being stilled is a very permanent thing. Maybe it's not so permanent. Maybe it can be reversed. Can death be healed? I'll stick with no, it can't be healed.
Okay.
So, and that was a powerful scene in the Shao Rising. And I like how one thing I was really impressed with this book was that things that happened in previous books are coming back, are affecting the characters. That was something I was concerned about. So I was happy that Rand recalled that moment in the last book. So
yeah, it's interesting. I don't know. So
maybe there's. Sorry, I'll let you go.
So I never really had that complaint about the series. I never looked at the characters and thought that they were too static, or like weren't developing or something like that. But I don't know.
High expectations, I guess.
You made that point, and my wife, when she was reading the first couple books, and she decided that they weren't for her. She really had a problem with Egwene's character, like, not having enough, like, trauma from being a prisoner with the Shanchan.
Really?
Which in my mind, I was like,
I was like, are you sure? I mean, even like, really? Wow.
Like, I thought that it was done really well. I thought that it was like,
yeah, so did I.
She had all sorts of problems. She was just lying to herself about it, was the way that I read her character. And then, like, more and more you see, like, those problems kind of manifest. And so, like, the idea of her kind of having PTSD, I thought that Robert Jordan did reasonably well.
Yeah,
which makes sense as a Vietnam vet, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's not an experience that I had reading the series. I've heard other people say that they thought different characters, didn't progress enough, or seemed like they were kind of going in circles. The only one that I ever experienced that with at all was really kind of Rand, with, like, the denying being the dragon for like the first 3 books, but like it's not really retreading the same ground. There's a subtle difference. So in the first one, he like doesn't know, and it's not really about denying that he's the dragon. It's denying that Tam is not his real father, right? Like that's the thing that he's denying. And then in the Great Hunt, now he's denying that he's the dragon, right? And then in the Dragon Reborn, he's not denying that he's the dragon. He's denying that anyone is going to control him and use the dragon or something like that. Like he's going to go on his own. He's going to, he's going to do it himself. He's going to make sure nobody else gets hurt in the struggle between him and the Dark One. So he's denying like some of the context of being the dragon, right? Mm-hmm. And then, as you get forward, I think that kind of goes away, and you start seeing Rand kind of own who he is, right? So I don't know. I mean, it just wasn't my experience in the books, but
I just I've read other books, so that's kind of where I'm getting my expectations from. So, like I said, I took some ideas, some tropes from all the stuff I've watched over the years, the stories I've experienced, put those aside, especially for the sake of this book, because Robert Jordan is different. Robert Jordan does his own thing. So there were things I complained about the last book. Like I was kind of disappointed with the White Cloaks, to be honest, and with in the parent storyline. Like, I don't know. I thought I was expecting something to happen with them, and I just what ultimately happened, where they just didn't do anything, and then the parents like, get the fuck out of here, type of deal. I was just like, this is not what I wanted. It's not
what did you want?
Wanted. I was hoping. Now this is a trope, and I'm sure it's been because I know I've experienced this. I was hoping that the White Cloaks would find them, even though the White Cloaks didn't still, wouldn't, raise a hand or something, that they themselves would be in danger, and that Perrin and the rest of them would help them, that they weren't somehow protected or unscathed from the Trollocs and all that. And Perrin would save Dane Bornhold's life, and Dane would fucking hate him for it. But Dane would somehow feel like he still owed him or something. And that's why Dane and the White Cloaks would leave. That's what I was expecting to see happen. And I told this to Aldan. Aldan's like, he's like, Nerd Man, until you experience the whole story, you'll understand why that wasn't the case. So, but that's what I was kind of expecting to see. So I was a little annoyed, but I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it. I'm fine with it if it's going to go somewhere, and I have no reason not to expect it's going to go somewhere. So,
well, I'd also put one more thing in here. Who is hanging out with the White Cloaks?
Well, Ordeef.
And what effect does he have on people?
Bad effect.
Yeah, so
evil effect. So apparently, like he was in contact with High Lord Turok. He was in contact with Egwene.
Yeah.
In the Great Hunt.
So something to consider with Egwene's contact. He didn't have the dagger.
No,
he was not Ordeef at that point. He was Padden Fane.
He didn't have the dagger. He didn't get the dagger until this book, till Fire's Heaven. Well, actually, that's not true. He had the dagger in the Great Hunt.
Yes. So my point is that his interactions with Egwene were just as Padden Fane.
Yeah. So the only person he had contact with the dagger then was High Lord Turok, and High Lord Turok took the dagger away from him. He didn't have the dagger as Ordeef.
Yeah, but once he had the dagger, once he became Ordeef, right? So now he's Ordeef. He's not Padden Fane.
I see. Oh, yeah. So once he had the dagger, even though he lost it, it didn't lose its effect. So yes. going forward with Pedro Nile, with Elida,
Yep.
Alviara now apparently.
Yep.
So you're saying, okay, all right, that makes sense. I'm honestly curious where his story is going to go, because it seems like he wanted the dagger in the last book, and he's got the dagger. He was in a couple. He was in like parts of a couple chapters. So
Yep.
I'm curious if there's. I mean, I've heard mixed things about where his story goes.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I mean, I won't spoil stuff for you, but I'll just say, like, when you're
is Rand too powerful for him now?
I guess you'll have to read and find out. But the point I was just making is that when you think about Dan Bordenhall and the White Cloaks and the Two Rivers, you have to remember that all of the White Cloaks, to varying degrees, there's the one kind of troop of them specifically, but all of them are still in contact with Ordeith, right? So paranoia and suspicion and, cynicism and all those things have been twisted to the point where now you have the White Cloaks who are literally watching Trollocs and stuff like that, and they're not going to raise a hand to save villagers because, they're so convinced that they're Dark Friends,
I see.
Anyway, hey.
But that wasn't the issue.
The Fires of Heaven.
That wasn't the issue I had, though. The issue I had was they weren't attacked by Trollocs. That was my issue.
Yeah.
They weren't attacked, and then it didn't leave a window for Perrin to do something heroic for them, even though they clearly didn't deserve it, which I think would have been appropriate, but that's just me.
All right. Well, we're talking about Fires of Heaven. So what was your favorite and least favorite part of Fires of Heaven?
Favorite part? I don't know. Like that's a good question. I mean, there were the parts that I enjoyed. Let's see. I really enjoyed. I think I messaged it yesterday. I was reading chapter 50. Was it chapter 51 or something? Trying to remember exactly. They get the news that Morghese is dead, and Rand just goes nuts. Rand just goes nuts. He's like, we're gonna. So shit started going down. Like tensions were going up quite a bit, and then you have that we find out that what's her name, Matt's snuggle buddy Melindra is Dark Friend.
Yep. So
I'm not sure if she's the one that wrote the letter to Kadir, but I'm assuming she's one. I'm wondering if there's more in the. I wonder if there's more Dark Friends amongst the Aiel. So we'll see. I did like the Lanfear stuff. Just took me by surprise. The Lanfear stuff. So Kadir tells Lanfear what he just rumors, and it ended up, and he's so worried about saying the wrong thing. He's like, if I bring up this stuff, she'll let me live. And he brought up the wrong thing to the point where he was turned inside out. He was turned inside out, and all of a sudden there's an explosion, there's fire, and then Lanfear's just like nuts. She's totally nuts. She's like the Hulk at this point. You can't control her. You can't reason with her. She's all about destruction right now. So I thought that came out. I was like, I was not expecting it, especially where I was reading it. So they're ready to go to Camelin, and then all of a sudden this happens. So I'm just like, wow, what the heck? I'm like, wow, what's going on here? So
yep. Okay. What's your least favorite part?
I mean, it's hard. I mean, there's a lot of not the rest of the book, but like a lot of the. I was not really impressed with the Suan stuff, the Aes Sedai stuff. Like the first chapter opens like they're being tried or by Gareth Bryn. So Gareth Bryn was the only saving grace of that chapter. But I was just like, I was a little bored with this opening with just like they burn a barn down, a few cows die, and then they go on a journey to look for some other Aes Sedai. I thought the Aes Sedai stuff was very, very, very felt long-winded to me. So it wasn't really until the chapter where Gareth Bryn meets up with them that I actually really enjoyed it.
I mean, the Aes Sedai chapters in this series are a lot of, women talking in hallways. I mean, basically, the TV show is actually a decent adaptation of some of the Aes Sedai scenes.
I figured that. So
it's just nothing happening, just women talking.
But seeing that there was this one chapter where the innkeeper just completely puts down Suwan by making her show her legs or something like that, and embarrassing her. I actually kind of enjoyed it. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't like Suwan. I don't know.
So I think for me, I still liked a lot of those chapters because just the details, the world building. I still enjoyed the Robert Jordan is a big one for kind of like stopping and smelling the flowers, and so I think there's a lot of chapters of things happening that like George Martin, for example, would not have written a lot of those things. You'd just like a book later, Swan would just like be in another place, So he tends to do the like characters are doing a lot of stuff like, off camera, which is a perfectly fine style and, can definitely increase the pacing. And depending on how like well telegraphed it is still pretty easy to follow. Robert Jordan likes to tell the story. I think that he is a storyteller more than he is a novelist, if that makes sense. And I like that style. I like being able to, read a 900-page story that it probably could have been 600 pages if you like really cut it back. But like the amount of time you get to spend reading it is something that I enjoy. So I never really felt bored reading these things.
It just comes off as long-winded. Like I like it when I learn new things. I like good character development. I like it when characters are challenged, I mean, and I just feel like there's just not enough of it in these chapters.
Yeah.
It feels very long-winded with a lot of detail that kind of comes off as meaningless. So.
I mean, I guess
like the chapter where they're on their the chapter when they're on their way to the prophet. I mean, I would have loved to have heard a story about the prophet doing something like very poignant, hearing different things. All I was getting is looking around buildings and this was built by this was built of this material, built by this person in this country somewhere across the world. Nynaeve sees men and she's like, men. So there's a lot of stuff that's just repeated over and over. So which is fun. I mean, I've pretty much gotten used to it. I mean, I'm trying, and like you said, trying to enjoy like the character moments for what they are. So part of it was me kind of shifting my attitude in my reading. So to get more out of this. So
I think Belmoran is kind of making the point the way that I view Robert Jordan's writing about the diamonds mixed in, right? So one of the things that I think makes Robert Jordan able to do some of the things that he does really well, which is the interconnected storylines, the foreshadowing, all that kind of stuff, right? Is that is that he buries the lead, right? There's
he buries the what?
He buries the lead, right? So little details become relevant later. And if you had a tighter narrative, you can't drop little pieces of information and foreshadowing and exposition and stuff like that in without the reader being aware that they've just been handed that piece of information, right? So instead, when you're talking about like, hey, traveling around and you're seeing, stuff from Arthur Hawking and, all this kind of stuff, right? And then later that information becomes relevant with the Shanchan, but you didn't really like consciously know that you were being fed the information that you would need to later understand things. That's a thing that he does really well. Most authors don't do that. They write a tighter narrative. They don't give you information that is not directly important to the scene that you're in. And so when you get to the important scene, they have to give you a bunch of information. Robert Jordan doesn't have to give you information when you arrive at the destination. The journey gave you all the information almost through osmosis, that's how real life works, right? Like you live in the world, you see things, you observe things, you interact with people, and you start to kind of get ideas and pick up information, and you just kind of organically move through it. Because you don't have eyes to observe the story that he's giving you, he has to describe these things to you. But like, you start to appreciate the world for what it is. And then by the time you get to that destination, you now have all of the relevant pieces of information about the different cultures and houses and noble bloodlines and, Aes Sedai and all these different people. You kind of know it. And it's almost like you are a character who lived in that world and is an organic part of it and actually a true observer to the cultures in the world versus, being sort of a disembodied kind of, outside observer. So, I think that's something that I like about his style.
Martin does all that stuff too, Martin does all that stuff too, That's how I read. That's how I approach my reading. The only thing is the stuff that Martin does, Martin puts stories within stories. He makes the chapters interesting with adding all the details.
I mean, I get
as much as I mean, yes, I know there's some gratuity. I know that's not everybody's thing. I get it, but the world is more interesting in Song of Ice and Fire compared to the world building is done better.
All I'm going to say is I think that's clearly your opinion. You're entitled to it, but
yeah, I mean, and it's more interesting. Like I'm reading this, and I'm just like, where is this going? What is going on here? Is this relevant? Am I going to even remember this? Of course, it's going to be brought up later. I know because you guys have told me. But am I going to remember it? Am I going to care? Am I going to care? Am I going to be like, oh, no, I'm probably not going to care. That's my problem.
And not every painting is everyone's style, right? Like, some people like Picasso and some people like Van Gogh, right? But the point that I'm making is that when you say that when I'm reading Martin and when you say that you read Jordan, you're like, where is this going? Like, what is even important? Like, that's a demonstration that Jordan is doing something that Martin is not. There is no point during reading, A Song of Ice and Fire that you don't know exactly where you're going and the information that you've been given that's important versus not important. Frankly, you aren't given not important information. So there is a difference, right? Like Robert Jordan gives you parts of the world that are not relevant, that like honestly don't really build to much of anything sometimes. And the reason is because he's building a haystack that he's burying needles in. Martin is not even trying to do that. So if you don't like the quest of searching for the needles in the haystack, then yeah, you're going to look at it and think, this is kind of dull. I don't know what's important. I'm going to forget the details, right? If you like the exercise of reading it and trying to keep track of all of these different pieces of straw and later trying to figure out which one is actually a needle that looks like a piece of straw, then reading Robert Jordan's story is actually a very active and engaged experience, because that's how you're approaching it, right? So one of them, it's very much like if you think of video games, right? You have like the open world versus the sort of like, more kind of, narrative driven sort of thing, right? Robert Jordan is 100% building an open world. He's making Skyrim, right? Whereas George Martin is making, I don't know, Super Mario, right?
Sure. Yeah, I
And
see where you're going.
So anyway, what did you think of the siege of Cairn?
Well, a lot of yawning. I mean, one thing I'll say that I thought was interesting was Matt's part of it.
Yeah.
But I thought it was disappointing.
See, you and I
thought it was building to the cool fight with Couladin, and then we didn't really get that. So I was like, oh. So I didn't hate it. I just thought it was a little underwhelming. I was disappointed because I thought something was going to happen that wasn't. So it's more of a me thing.
Gosh, I actually really like the fact that we didn't see the fight with Couladin. I think that the siege of Cairn, along with something that comes up in Path of Daggers.
I'll say this. I thought... All right, sorry, I didn't interrupt you. Finish your thought.
I was just going to say that those two are the places. Well, that and the end of Lord of Chaos. So you'll see some in Lord of Chaos. You'll see some in Path of Daggers. You'll see some here. I think that Robert Jordan writes battles really, really well. For the perspective of someone who is in them, right? I think that he potentially, and this is maybe what you didn't like about him, he potentially writes them poorly from like this sort of Hollywood kind of battle perspective of like the observer that's sitting outside of a person's head and gets to like, watch the campaign map, and you sort of, get to always be at sort of the point that is critical, and you're always watching the stars, and you see all the stuff, right? But that's not what a battle is like. Robert Jordan makes the fog of war a thing that you experience with the characters, where the miscalculations and limited information that the characters have is actually something that you, the reader, has. And you see that play out where Rand's perception of the battle and Matt's perception of the battle are not the same. And you're seeing both different geographic locations and different time locations. And you're left kind of like, getting tossed about a little bit on the story. And part of that experience is, you miss things, like you miss the fight with Couladin or whatever, which honestly I think would have been, I don't know, fantasy combat trope. Like Matt fighting.
This is fantasy. This is epic fantasy, man.
But Matt fighting.
This is kind of what I'm expecting. Important. This is what I'm expecting in an epic fantasy. Sorry, that's why I had
his character. Like it's just not.
I mean, it was. It would have been good because it was building up to it. I mean, we got to see the effects of what he did to those towns. So it would have been a great little thing to show.
Except, I think one of the points of it is that Couladin was never anything.
Well, I mean, sure. I mean, down the line, sure. But at this point, I mean, he was the one that was driving the story. He was the one that the reason why Rand went after him. The reason why Rand crossed the mountain Shanghai Pass.
No, he wasn't. He was the reason that he did it in the way that he did it, but he was never going to stay in the waste, right?
Yeah, but I mean, Couladin
think about it this way.
accelerated those plans.
Think about it this way. What did Rand do with the Tyrant Higher Lords before he even went into the waste?
He said, "I'll be back."
But where did he
send
them?
He sent them to Kyrian.
Yeah. Rand was going to Kyrian either way.
Okay.
So the point is that Couladin was important to Couladin. Couladin was not important to Rand, to Matt, to the story, right? And that's real. Like Couladin was a person who was doing things for a while, but he was largely being manipulated by better minds anyway. So it's not like he was an actual interesting adversary. It's not like he was a long-term, rival. It's not like he was really any of those things. He was, a roadblock. He was a thing that had to be overcome or whatever. But ultimately, Couladin versus the Dragon Reborn, Couladin ain't shit. And he didn't really deserve the time. There. I think Gadfly's right. Couladin was a sucker who got played by the people behind him. Is 100% accurate, right? His strings were getting pulled by others. And so, like, it wouldn't have been interesting. You would have seen Matt kill some Aiel who, like, we largely didn't really know personally prior to that point. And, like, okay, I mean, yeah, sure. Robert Jordan could have written that battle or that fight to be, like, super great. But, like, did Rand versus Turok, did that need to happen with Matt versus Couladin? I would say no, 100% no. And I think a lot of authors would have made the mistake that you as the reader are kind of making, where you're like, but I thought that was what was going to be there. And they would have written that fight because it's the thing that they expected was supposed to be there. And ultimately it would have been a waste of pages and, like, maybe an interesting fight. It's when you watch movies and TV shows and they have action scenes that are, like, kind of meaningless and don't really do anything to the story, but, like, cool fight scene. That's what Couladin would have been. It would have been cool fight scene. And Robert Jordan doesn't do that. And I like that he doesn't do that.
Yeah. Agree to disagree, my friend.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Yeah, pretty much. So, I mean, yeah, you gave your
the title of this stream is agreeing to disagree with Pips.
Yeah.
Who is wrong? And Nerdporeal is right.
I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're wrong. That's not where I'm going with this. That's not where I'm going. I don't think it sucks. I mean, just because I'm critical of it doesn't mean I think it sucks. I would never say that about this book. So, but honestly, like, I thought the battle itself, I thought the plans, because I'm not an expert in in battle strategy and all that. So I actually enjoyed the detail of, especially my favorite part of that was Lan and Matt talking about the battle, him looking at them looking at the grid. Yeah. I liked how, like, I forget if it was Lan was kind of planted there by Rand or something to get Matt's take or something. I'm not sure. But I liked, and then me and Dane talked about this. I liked how they were very particular about what they wanted to do in the battle and all that. So, like, and I don't have the map. I don't have the terrain mapped down and all that. So, all I was happy to know was that they didn't want to drive them into the city, because once you get them into the city, then it's going to be hard to get them out and all that. So they had to drive them away. So, and I thought it was cool that Matt got some people behind him now, because he's like, you guys are going into a trap and all that, and he's like, I'm gonna stay and help them for a little bit, and then the help gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger to the point where he's leading an entire company. And now after that, they want to follow him. They're like, we're alive now because of you. We're sticking with you. He's like, God damn it. So I actually like that. That was the one thing I did take away from this that I did like, though. It doesn't erase the disappointment, but it was something. There were things to take away that I did like about it. So,
all right. Well, I'm just gonna say hi to Salty Traveling Sea, who showed up here. And
hey, are you the host? Are you the host of this stream? Come on, that's my job.
Maybe. I think based on his comments, Salty. he must have just joined the chat from watching the State of the Union, which was another missed opportunity for a title. You should have had a State of the Union based pun. Just saying.
No politics. So.
Anyway, Aldan is wrong. He wanted to see the fight. He's wrong.
Yeah, I still want to see it. Your reasons make me want to see it even more now. So
I don't disagree with the fundamental thing that, like, would that have been a cool scene? Yes. I just, and that's why I brought it.
It wouldn't have detracted either, in my opinion.
I'm just saying.
I think it would have been nothing but.
He would have written it, right? But Sando is like the king of rule of cooling his writing, right? So there you go. Aldan, he's like, hey, more fights are always better, and that's what I disagree about. I think that it's kind of like, I'm gonna pitch this to you, and you can tell me if you think I'm wrong. Why is the fighting in Star Wars better than the prequel trilogy?
Why is the fighting better in the prequel trilogy?
Yeah. So what I'm saying is that Rand versus Turok is, Vader versus Obi-Wan, right? And then Couladin versus Matt would have been, nameless, clone being killed by Anakin before killing the droid troopers. Like that, it just okay.
That's a bad equivalent. That's not a good equivalence. He was pretty prominent at the end of the last book, Couladin.
Okay, let me ask you this. Let's say Couladin,
and who knows what his capabilities are? Maybe he's pretty good with the spear. He was born with the spear.
Let's say fine, it wouldn't have been nameless, right? How much did you give a shit when Mace Windu killed Jango Fett?
I was like, yeah.
But like, did you really give a shit?
What do you mean give a shit? Like, did I care? Or was I upset?
If that wasn't in the story, like, would it have been worse?
If it wasn't in the story, would it have been worse? Yeah. What happened to Jango Fett?
If you just like, hey, someone later is like, oh yeah, Mace Windu killed him. Or
probably
if you thought
probably would have been disappointed.
Nah. I think that it is a thing that
I rather show than tell in this case.
But it's a movie. It's different, right? It's a thing that had to happen for the story, but it's not a thing that you needed to spend time watching happen. And Couladin being killed is exactly the same way. He had to die. Somebody had to kill him. That's it. He did.
Yeah, that was lame.
Also, I also like the way Matt kind of deals with it, where everybody else is like putting Couladin's head on a spike and stuff like that, and Matt is just like, dude, I killed like 35 Aiel today.
Yeah. He barely remembered. So.
Yeah. Which is correct for Matt. All right, fine. We disagree. You hate everything that I like, and
I don't hate everything you like.
We're just continuing to be adversaries. I don't even know why I come on this channel.
I don't know why because I invite you. But no, I think I agree. I think we agree on more stuff than disagree on. So this is just stuff. So, I did like. There's one thing I was kind of that I was a little. I was expecting this, but once again, this would probably be another. it'll be probably a similar thing. So the final fight, they're in Camelin, they're in the palace. Yep. Rand is hunting Ravin, and
yep.
One thing that I did like that I thought was interesting, and I didn't even quite realize this. So apparently they were in Teleron. I didn't even know he was in Teleron Riyadh, because all I know is he traveled, or I think he somehow traveled into the palace. So they traveled into Camelin, and then he travels into the palace. Yeah. So, and then there's a big skips. There's a big time skip, and he basically lays waste to all of Ravin's men and all that. And the thing that I was expecting, the only dialogue you hear is coming from Rand as he's hunting him. He's like, Ravin, like that. So, only issue is there was no dialogue in between them. That's something I felt was missing.
Between Ravin and Rand?
Yeah.
I mean, what dialogue could there be, given that Ravin just smoked Matt and Avienda?
He smoked them?
I mean, do you not remember that?
No.
So this was one of the mechanics of Balefire, right? So they're in the city of Camelin, right? And then a lightning bolt like hits their like group, right?
Yeah, it was shielded.
But like not fully.
And Asmodean got hit. He's got killed.
And Avienda and Matt both get killed. That's what makes him rage. That's what makes him go freaking beast mode. Is that his girlfriend just got killed. Also his buddy, like, longtime friend, but like some grade A choice Wagyu A5 snaps got killed.
I don't recall that. All I remember was seeing Asmodean getting killed. Let me see.
Dude, he kind of paints it a little thick there with Rand, like looking at their bodies.
Apparently not, because I missed it.
Trip is asking if you were drinking while reading. Did Drunk Porial read this chapter, or did Nerd Porial read this chapter?
No, Nerd Porial read this. I don't drink generally.
Drunk Porial is a myth. Is that what we're going with?
No, I've drank with you. I've drank with you. I mean, that's really the only time I drink. I don't drink otherwise.
You're going to make me feel like I am contributing to the moral degradation of society if you keep blaming it on me.
I'm not blaming it on you. I'm just saying. I generally don't drink. That's all it is. And when I do, it's bad on me. It's on me. Not on you, dude.
Either way.
I'm trying to see where I don't remember this. This is more frustrating for me.
I don't know. Chat, back me up here. Am I crazy, or am I right?
No, I'm crazy. I'm looking.
Where Rand is like looking down at their bodies, and he sees Matt, and the fox head medallion is like hanging out of his shirt, and he sees Avienda, and she's all like dead, and he like goes into shock. There you go. Yep. Come out of the portals. Lightning bolts come crashing.
I found the paragraph. Okay, I didn't know what to fucking make of this. Yeah, Matt's smoking boots lay a dozen paces from where Matt's himself sprawled on his back. Tendrils of smoke rose from the black haft of his spear, too, from his coat, even from the silver fox head hanging from his shirt. Asmodean was a twisted shape of char, recognizable. An Avienda unmarked she could have laid down to rest, if she could have rested staring unblinking in the sun. Oh, I see. Oh. Okay, so it was me. It was me misinterpreting the paragraph.
That was the description of a dude who went through some freaking VC ambushes and like, a frag grenade goes off.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, okay. That gives it a little bit more context now.
So that's the reason there was going to be no words between him and Ravine.
Yeah. Mm. And yeah, because of the whole nature of balefire, they come back.
Yep.
And then Asmodean dies again.
just fake out deaths. Gosh, even Robert Jordan does it. Damn it. So do you dislike it more or less now?
No, I think there could have still been some dialogue. I don't know. I'm not saying I didn't. I mean, I'm just saying I don't know. Maybe kind of the chapter got a little. I think a little dialogue with I don't know. I think a little dialogue.
See, again, like this sequence again. I liked as the reader. I feel like the little time jump that you get, I think, is kind of confusing, but it's because Rand is acting on instinct. He's like seeing red, and he's like acting on instinct.
I mean, I don't know. It just there were points where I felt it felt long-winded. Like I had to put the page down during this critical part of the book. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I feel like so much of what you don't like and what I like about Robert Jordan's writing are often kind of the same thing. And so, when you'll say like, I felt long-winded, to me, like I like that aspect of his writing because I feel like I can kind of like simmer in the story, right? Like there's more to read, right? It's like the chat's gonna love this. Robert Jordan is like tantric fantasy. You're sitting there and you're just cruising.
When you say tantric fantasy, what do you mean?
That's exactly what I mean.
I'm asking, what do you mean? What's tantric fantasy? I don't know what you're talking about.
Do you know what? Did you ever see Forgetting Sarah Marshall?
No, I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay. The tantric thing is a sexual term, and
is it?
Yeah. It has to do with making it last for hours and hours and hours. Trip liked it. Trip likes it. Tantric Robert Jordan fantasy.
But I like how it sets up the next book though. But like I don't know, I just felt I felt Robin's ending was a little. I don't know. I mean, it just kind of happened. I mean, the thing I thought was interesting was Nynaeve being part of this. That I thought was interesting. So she basically attacks him, and then he gets drawn out into the open, and then Rand does the coup de grace. So I don't know. For some reason, I just felt like there was dialogue missing. It was just I thought the chapter was a little too silent.
Interesting.
It kind of got a little claustrophobic being in his head the entire time.
Which
so what's up?
I think that was the point. Like I've never thought that it was too quiet. Like I mean they're in Tel'aran'rhiod, right? So it's literally empty. It's just the two of them, and it is supposed to be claustrophobic because it's trap, springing trap, new trap, springing new trap. Like turn sort of counter turn, right? Like it's the cat and mouse, except it's a cat chasing like a just as deadly cat, right? Trip, that's just rude. Also, I don't know, Brian, you have to weigh in on that.
I don't know how to interpret that. So, yeah, it just, I don't know. There. I mean, it just didn't. This wasn't just like something I was like, ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. I was just like, I'm reading. I'm just like, Put it down. Do something. Read again. Okay, good, done.
Well, I mean, maybe the chat is right. Maybe you just need to put the series down for a little bit. I'm curious based on how you're talking about it. You said before we started the stream, you and I talking, you said like you're going to go straight into Lord of Chaos. You made it sound like this ended somewhere that was interesting to you, and you kind of want to know what happens next, and you're going to go straight into Lord of Chaos. And so my question would be, why? Because it maybe it's just because, like, from my perspective and our disagreements, like you said, maybe we agree more than we disagree, but I'm getting the perception that like you're not having a good time reading the book. So like, well, why are you like, I'm going to go straight into Lord of Chaos? What's going on there?
Probably because there's things that I probably want to see. I don't know. I'm still curious.
It's just
I'm thousands of pages in already.
You're just looking for the completionist achievement.
Maybe there's something I'll like down the line. I don't know. I mean, there were things in this book that I liked. Once again, it's the problem is my problem is high expectations. High expectations and preconceptions. So I'm trying to kind of unlearn that.
More than you are not enjoying it? Like, are you considering this an overall positive experience in these readings, or are you like, I'm only doing this because I'm streaming with friends and they like the book series and like, let's talk about it?
It's always a combination of reasons. So I mean, I'm not just doing this for the sake of streaming this. I mean, it's a lot of work making those streams. So if I didn't have to do it, I probably wouldn't. But I enjoy doing those streams, and it's a good addition to the reads, because I'll get some insight that I didn't have before. I might enjoy some of the stuff more as a result.
Because Thumb Maryland is making it like Lord of Chaos is a ride. Like, it's got an incredible ending. It's got some great stuff. There's some really we'll say claustrophobic, like inside a character's head stuff, right? I'm
okay with that. I just like to know what's going on. I like to have a good idea what's going on at the same time.
But there's definitely slow chapters in Lord of Chaos. Like Lord of Chaos, I've always thought that Lord of Chaos is a decent book with an amazing ending. So like I think that Lord of Chaos and Fires of Heaven are probably like similarly good books in terms of like a lot of the stuff that you're talking about now, like I think is going to bother you in Lord of Chaos as well, if I'm being honest. Like I think that you're going to experience the same thing of like, things are just kind of slower than, most of the other books that you've read and what your expectations are. I think that Lord of Chaos's finale and like the conclusion that you get to is even better than the conclusion in the previous books. I mean, like, S tier sort of conclusion to that book. But like, there's a lot of stuff that happens before that I think you are probably you're gonna come back and you're gonna say that you think it's slow and you didn't enjoy some parts of it, which is fine, But
well, we'll have to see. I mean, I'm already aware of that. So yeah. I mean, some people say the slog begins with Lord of Chaos. This is not good for me. This is me listening to other booktubers. So
all right, before we get into this, chat, those of you who watched the State of the Union, tell us what happened. What's the State of the Union? Is it weak? Is it strong?
hey, no politics here.
Let's get some less confrontational conversation going
Let's get some
between Chillporeal and I on Fires of Heaven.
I like the snow chapter. I thought that was fun.
You perv. That was a private scene.
I thought inserting the Sean Chan was interesting.
I think can we say that of all of the scenes that happen in the book series that are not going to happen in the TV show? I think that one's not going to happen. I think Avienda is going to take Rand in the sweat tent. There's probably going to be other people watching, and there's going to be some some light bondage.
Yeah, the killing of Morghese, I thought that was an interesting thing. I obviously knew it wasn't true, but apparently, I don't know if that rumor came from Robin himself or it was just rumored around the city. Who knows at this point? But I knew it was meant to. I knew it was meant to mislead the reader.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we get our point of view at the very end of the book, anyway. So apparently, I'm not sure where this is going with her story. So they're just riding around, and she's looking at Talonvor, and and she's looking for allies.
If I was making the TV show, I would have had Ravian just kill her.
Give him more to do, I guess. I don't know. Probably not.
No, I just mean in terms of the stuff that you can expect from Morghese in the future.
So are they gonna incorporate Fires of Heaven in this new season?
It's supposed to be just the Shadow Rising.
Yeah. So they're rebuilding like the two rivers, and they're gonna try to have a battle.
I don't want to talk about all that.
You don't want to talk. You don't want to talk about the. You don't want to talk about what the dumbest thing in Wheel of Time season 2 was, or Wheel of Prime season 2 was.
People will have to watch the inevitable March Madness stream.
I don't know. It was fun. It was fun doing. It was fun voting. What was the one thing that you remember voting for?
I voted for Moraine killing the horse.
I think that's a very good. I think that's a very good take. Very good call.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. There's so many terrible moments. I think it would have been interesting to had a TV show that we could have done like a March Madness tournament of like best moments, But the problem is that you would have a bracket of like two things. One of them would have been probably one of the girls getting like slapped in the face or something like that. And then the end credits of episode 8, where you're just like, it's finished. Would have been the only highlights, Yeah. So yeah.
I'm curious if we're not gonna. I wonder if we'll ever find out who killed Asmodean.
Yes.
10 books later.
So I'm just going to throw this out there. Who Killed Asmodean was like a topic of a lot of discussion and theorizing in the fandom back in the old days. It's not a particularly important or interesting answer.
Sounds about right. That's another issue I have with the series is things that I do get interested in end up having a not so interesting payoff down the road that I accidentally find out about.
So. In my mind, and again, I know that you're gonna hate this answer. That's like how life works, like real.
Yeah, but this isn't life, Pips. This is an epic fantasy. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell, but this is epic fantasy. This isn't life.
I mean,
sorry. Pips, I apologize. I didn't mean to. Sorry. I know where you're going. I know where you're going. I know where you're going. I know where you're going with this.
I know.
Because I know because I mean, to me, based on what I've learned about Robert Jordan, I mean, this was kind of his way of channeling what he's learned from war, from dealing with the stuff that he's dealing with, and he's putting this all on paper. So there's things that ring true, and I think that's what I believe that's where you're trying to get at. So,
yeah. All right.
By the way, DJ Ronnie G for $5. Would watching the TV show be an adequate way for getting a feel of the books, or should I just watch your previous review discussion streams? Oh boy. I'll let you answer that, Pips.
Ronnie, if you would like to experience the show, or experience the story via your eyes, you would like to visually look at something, I guess. I think that a better representation of the show might be to be like Oedipus and stab yourself in the eyes than is watching the show. Not because that is a useful way to participate in the Wheel of Time, but because the show is so bad that literally anything else, up to and including you attempting to lobotomize yourself by shoving sort of knitting needles directly into your eye sockets, is still a superior experience.
I agree with you, Pips. See, we agree on stuff.
And he doesn't even like the series. Look at this.
Exactly. So, but yeah, I think Trip has the right answer here. So basically, watch the streams. I talk about them as I progress. So there's not going to be any spoilers for stuff down the line and everything. So, yeah. So,
also, if you look at my avatar, you can see the two needles that are about to go straight into my eyes. I just noticed that those are kind of behind me.
I don't know what you're talking about. So it's been an hour and a half. So how much longer can you do this?
We can go for a little bit longer. I was just thinking though, when you were like, I don't know what you're talking about. It's like, yeah, it's probably because I'm sleep deprived from hanging out with the baby and doing stuff.
How's the baby? How's the wife and the baby doing?
They're doing great. We just had his 2-month checkup today, and he's in the 98th percentile for weight. So
he already passed 200 pounds. He's already training to be a Marine.
Yeah, obviously, yeah.
Obviously, yeah.
No, but he was 16 pounds 6 ounces at 2 months. So
what's the general like 10, 11 at 2 months?
I would have to look to see. So up until like 3 months, the growth rate is like pretty steep.
Yeah.
They're like putting on a lot of pounds pretty quickly. Like they put on about a pound a week, maybe a half pound a week, somewhere in that range, right? So if you use the like pound a week kind of general rule of thumb, then he's basically right there of like, sort of 8-ish pound baby to now 16-ish pound, 8-week old. But I think the pound a week is clearly just a little more than actually attained by most babies. So he's a big chonker,
Does he have a favorite food? What does he respond to?
Well, he is, breast milk only. So.
Oh no! You haven't gotten them on like baby food yet or anything? I forget.
Oh no, he's way too young for that.
When do they generally? I forget when they generally start that. 6 months.
Well, I will caveat and say that this is my first child, so I don't know. He's going to start on non breast milk / he's going to start on baby food when my wife says that it's time for him to start on baby food.
Fair enough.
She's the boss.
Yes. But yeah, that was. But yeah, man. But yeah, I'm gonna keep reading. Wheel of Time. I'm basically. This once again, this is a new type of read for me. I feel this is really good exercise. And like there were things that I missed that you pointed out. So I just gotta become a better reader.
Brian, love you, buddy. You're. I feel like your facial expression when we talk about these, you look like blink twice if you need assistance. Like I feel. I feel like we've captured you, and we're like there's. Is Dane off camera with a gun to your head?
Well, I mean, Trip was asking something of those lines. I'm like, no, everybody's really awesome about it. So, no, I'm doing this because I want to do it. I'm doing this because I feel there's still a lot of potential. I mean, I have my complaints, but they're my complaints, and they're simply my opinions. I know you guys don't share them, so.
So I don't know if he's still hanging around, but Aldan, I think Aldan's like his favorite books in the series are actually some of the last books. So the ones that were, written by Brandon Sanderson based off of Robert Jordan's notes and like the chapters that he had kind of written, or rather the scenes. I don't think he had written any chapters. He had written scenes and he had dictated notes and given some material, right? I think Aldan, if I remember correctly, and he can tell me to not mischaracterize him if he's still here, liked those books kind of among the most out of the series. And I wonder, as you go through the series, it'll be interesting to me whether or not you also fall into that camp. Because in my mind, one of the things that Brandon Sanderson does really well is the pacing is a lot faster. Like the last 3 books are much faster than anything written by Robert Jordan, really. Like it just stylistically, the way that he writes.
I'm aware. Yeah, I know. That's kind of where I'm kind of thinking too.
I can't remember. Have you read other Brandon Sanderson books?
No.
Okay.
I think I have a good idea.
And what Tripp is talking about there, of Sanderson going into massive details about battles and tactics, to his detriment. He is not qualified to write battles and tactics in the way that Robert Jordan was, and they largely are. They're not as good, at least in my mind, right? So I think that if you looked at the Battle of Camelin and you were like, I wanted to see the Couladin fight, you might like Sanderson's writing more than I did. Like the stuff that I liked was the tactics and the sort of like I said, the kind of realism of the way you are an observer and what you know and don't know and how you experience it as a reader. Sanderson doesn't do that as much, certainly not as well, but I think he is much punchier and much more like exciting. So for me, I will be very interested if you make it all the way to the end of the series, hearing what you think about the difference between Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson's writing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty much aware of basically. I mean, I think you guys probably talked about it before, but yeah, I'm aware that he's quicker paced and more cool, so to speak. And I know a lot of people don't like it. I know Gadfly doesn't like it. I know Dane's not a big fan. So, we'll have to see. I mean, the Kyrian thing was interesting, but I didn't feel like the stakes were high. I didn't feel like there were any stakes. And that's part of the reason why I felt it was boring. And battles have stakes. And there should be tension. And there should be more tension, in my opinion. It's a battle. People are facing death. And people get scared. And I kind of wanted to feel that with them.
I don't know what to say, man. I think we clearly experience these chapters and these scenes so differently that it's hard for me. And it's all your perception, your experience and feeling like as you're reading it. So like I can't tell you like, oh, it's totally like there. It's like, well, those are the things that like I got when I read them, right? But the fact that you're not is clearly indicating that like, okay, different sort of expectations, different experience, different reading style or whatever, right? Like obviously people can get different things out of it. So yeah, man. Like if you,
I mean,
keep reading,
the stuff with Rand got pretty kind of went south, and he opened up his wound again, and he lost some of his maidens.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, there were some. So I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, I think there was room for a lot more than what we got. There was a lot of pages written, lots of stuff in there. So,
fair enough.
I'm trying to remember what else. But things just happened in the last few chapters. I thought was one thing I did like was I liked how everybody was brought back together, especially on the Nynaeve side of things. So like she met up with all the Aes Sedai and Saladar, and so she met up with Suan, and Suan, all of them want to learn how to use Teleron Riyadh. So I'm curious where the use of Teleron Riyadh is going to go further in the series and everything. So I'm curious how
what did you think of Nynaeve's showdown prior to Robin?
With Magedion and her and the collar and all that. I thought one of the things that kind of took me by surprise was when Magedion attacked, and I forgot to bring this up. Trips here. One of the most poignant moments in this book was Brigida coming to terms with the fact that she's no longer in the pattern. She's no longer in the dream world. Mm-hmm. And that means possibly being cut off from her lover, Guidal Kane, forever. And that moved me. And based on, what Robert Jordan wrote, setting all that up really moved me. I understood the weight of what was going on. And that's shit I like.
Okay.
So,
But
I thought that I was like, holy crap! Like all of a sudden, Mogedion attacks, and Nynaeve doesn't know what to do. Nynaeve is scared, so she starts off very. I like how she. I'm not sure how much she actually changes, but like she has quite the ride in this book. I'll say. If this was anybody's book, this was Nynaeve's book.
Okay.
But there were some Nynaeve chapters that I felt, I was just like, oh, come on. And then there was the infamous chapter with her and Egwene putting her in a nightmare or something. I forget if it was a nightmare or sicking those two guys on her. I thought was nuts. So some people don't take that too seriously. I know Alex basically called Egwene a monster. I forgot what your take is. What your take was? Is this where the whole psychopath stuff kind of begins? Or
no? I mean,
really, not begins. Sorry, that poor choice of words.
I mean, I think that she's a psychopath. I think some people really go too hard on like judging her about this. I think my interpretation of this scene is not that Egwene used her power to get another woman who was a friend of hers sexually assaulted and or raped, right? That's not what Egwene did, right? Egwene essentially made a very bad mistake in terms of she wanted to put Nynaeve in her place and accidentally went way too far and lost control of the situation to the, great negative of Nynaeve, right? Mm-hmm. The psychopathic tendency, because that's actually like Egwene's 17 years old at this point in the book, right?
Yeah.
So she's a young woman. That is an understandable, like, pettiness, rivalry, mistake, right? The problem with Egwene in this scene is the fact that she never owns it, comes to terms with it, makes amends, anything like that. She just totally moves on and like never does the human thing of accepting that she did that terrible thing, which is typical, just classic psychopath behavior.
Yeah, don't take responsibility. No remorse whatsoever, and pretending, and basically the psychopaths tend to pretend quite a bit. They pretend to be good. They pretend to be. I mean, they're wolves in sheep's clothing. They're wolves in sheep's clothing, basically. So they're very good at behaving. They're very good at pretending to behave.
Yeah, Egwene is always justified in her own mind.
Yes,
she never was in the wrong. She never makes mistakes.
Yeah, and if I remember, like, I one thing that I took away, and this was probably from that same chapter, was just like she was just going all I don't know how to describe it. She was just going all no nonsense on Nynaeve to the point where Nynaeve couldn't even get a word in. So I'm curious if that behavior is what contributes to her being a certain, and I already know this, Amerlin's seat.
Read and find out.
Read and find out, of course. So, but yeah, like the rest, like the, just try it. But like Nynaeve starts off pretty insufferable. She's just like mocking Elaine the entire, like, the way there and all that. They get poisoned by, was it deep root tea or something? I forget what exactly it's called.
Fork root,
whatever. And they end up meeting up with Galad, and they have to get away from Galad. I'm sure there's other details. I'm just not recalling right now. So
the whole thing with the like starting riots and like burning the town down stuff. Is that what you're going on about?
Oh yeah, I forgot about. Forgot to bring up the prophet. Forgot to bring up the prophet, the dragon, and all that. So, I like the chapter where they meet him. The chapter where they're on their way to him was a little long-winded. Felt like could have been quicker. This I don't know if I'm not sure if it's the same for the final chapter in that batch. It was a 4-chapter thing. One thing I did like, I liked how Uno was like, and he's alive. Uno's alive. I liked how I liked how Nynaeve's just like, hey, watch your fucking language, and so he's struggling to watch his language. Almost every piece of dialogue he gives after that, he's about to say something, and then he has to retract and not say it. So I don't know. It was stuff like that I kind of I kind of picked up on. I enjoyed and all that. The prophet's interesting. I'm curious. I'm sure he's going to be a antagonist in a later book, basically. So apparently, I was telling this Miss Missima based on. So was not imagining show Missima. I was imagining Missima, bald and everything. I was imagining him kind of like Colonel Kurtz from Apocalypse Now. It's just kind of that type of, maybe not quite that derangement, but like I was imagining a Marlon Brando type character just spouting off, stuff, everything.
Honestly, I feel like the show, who the show cast for Uno would probably be a better Missima.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah. Like if those two characters just switched, Uno should be the like dude who actually knows how to do the stunt work and do sword fighting. Like they should have given him an eye patch and a scar, and then the character, the actor that they cast for Uno, that should have been Missima. Just kind of the chunkier dude who like isn't as good at the stunt work.
Yeah, makes sense. But I like how they were like there was tension in the scene with him. They like even Nynaeve had to be careful what they were like. They're all telling her, you gotta be careful what you say to him because anything he wants he can get. So if like he asks for something or if he decrees something, it's gonna happen. Like I liked how like the queen of the kingdom, I forget what kingdom they were in, but the queen of the kingdom was there talking with him. She was there before they went in to see him. So so it just shows you how much pull he has with even powerful people. So what does that say to our heroes dealing with him and all that? So
yeah.
And then he's starting to say, "Oh, we have to decree this. We have to. This is immoral. That's immoral." And there was a point where Nynaeve's like, "Shut up about that." And then she retracted right away or something. So
yeah.
And they're like, "Okay, we gotta go." And yeah, so and then the riots happened, and yeah, I'm curious where that goes. I'm curious if Rand is going to confront the prophet himself.
The thing about the way that you are experiencing this book, right, is because in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, like that's going so many places. But I feel like in your mind, it's going to be like, yeah, like 4 books from now, like stuff will happen, and you'll probably kind of be bored by it.
Yeah, but that might be the case. Who knows? It is what it is.
I think the chat was dead on earlier that like you've been hanging around too many people who like love this series for their own reasons, and so like, all of us are for lack of a better term, we're kind of Wheel of Time fanboys. Like we love this series potentially more than the series deserves to be loved. Potentially. I don't think so.
I don't know how you. I don't know how you would come up. I don't know how you would how you'd come up with that, but sure.
Yeah, it's all in the eye of the beholder, I guess.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's getting late on my end.
Yeah, it's 2 hours. So yeah, man. Thanks. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for doing the stream. Thanks for having this little back and forth. I feel like I probably shouldn't have gone off a little too strong as I did earlier. So for that, my bad.
I feel like you're sitting over there like, why do I keep inviting this asshole on my channel? All he does is he just gaslights me about this crap book series that I don't like.
No, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, you have, I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm just basically stating my feelings on it, which, are subject to change. All things in life are subject to change. But like, I mean, if I'm going to give you pushback, I expect you to give me pushback, because obviously you know way more about the series than I do. You have better insight into the series than I do. So you got better insight than most people I've talked to. So, and
I appreciate you saying that.
And so when I challenge that, I do so because, and this is kind of why, this is why I really enjoy the streams with Dane, because Dane really points out things that I didn't take that things I might take for granted, like, or things that are probably really important to you guys and all that. So like, one thing that he said is that, and something I've taken for granted from other books, is that appreciate the slower moments, because the bigger moments will just be all the more sweeter for it. So, well, that's not how he put it. That's how I'm interpreting how he said it. But that's how Robert Jordan would say it. That's how Robert Jordan would say it.
Dane said that, but he said like a couple times in a Canadian accent.
Exactly. So, but there's there's a reason why people like it, and I want to be able to tap into that. Except without the grease of sardine or whatever.
Can I suggest we end on a point of agreement then? There's a TV show that you started watching that I recommended.
Yeah. I started watching Masters of the Air, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I've only watched one episode so far. Good insight into aviation. I don't know anything about it. I know you know all about it because that's your wheelhouse. So I figured, exactly. So, but I'm always a sucker for a good period piece, and I always feel like a lot of those shows ring true, and I want to learn more about the different people that served in World War II and all that. Mm. So, because that war affected that war was a big part of all of our families. So, but I still have to, and you're gonna laugh at me for this. I never finished Band of Brothers. I must have seen the first 2 episodes at least a billion times, but I never finished it.
Oh my gosh!
I know. What's funny is I saw the Pacific.
Which is even though it's about Marines, it's the inferior of the 2 shows, unfortunately.
Yeah.
It's just you can't tell as good of a story in the like island hopping campaign as you can from like D-Day, whatever. It's just not as good of a kind of linear story. And you had the people kind of in and out and stuff. It didn't work in the same way. But man, I mean, Nerdporeal is the guy who watches high quality TV dramas. I mean, your Better Call Saul streams, like all your stuff. You are like, if there's like a black and white TV show, Nerdporeal is going to be all over it. And you haven't finished Band of Brothers.
There's a lot. If it makes you feel any better, I haven't finished that black and white TV show that you're talking about, which I'm assuming you're talking about the Twilight Zone.
I mean, that is a good one that I would assume that you would have probably a couple episodes on your channel already devoted to.
No, not really.
You haven't done the Twilight Zone episode?
No.
That's wild.
Not yet. Not yet.
Yes.
So, well, eventually I'll have to find someone
next
to talk
time
about
on the Nerdporeal.
So I do have a question. So, all right. So, speaking of which, next time, I think that there will be a next Chillporeal featuring Pips. So, I got to ask you, Pips, is there any revelations to lead into the next stream? Are you my father's brother's cousin's ex's former roommate? I forget exactly how that goes.
I'm your father's mother's brother's cousin's former roommate. So what does that make us? Absolutely nothing. Which is what you are about to become.
I love that movie. But yeah,
in the book. I can't believe you fell for it. Great movie. Great movie.
It is a great movie. But any questions for the next stream? Like why you wear that stupid hat or
No, I think that we should do another stream, and we should talk about because we just brought it up. We should talk about Masters of the Air. I think when you're done watching it, we should get together and talk about that. I think that it's so far is setting itself up to be a really solid show with a lot of really good emotional payoffs, some real tragedy, some real kind of personal triumphs and failures in the characters. A lot of good stuff. So I think we could have some fun talking about that. And I could talk to you and your audience if you guys are so inclined, and tell you all about the helicopter air war in World War II, which was none. There were no helicopters in World War II, but there could have been if Igor Sikorsky had already invented the helicopter, which he had not. So. But no, we could talk about the air war, World War II. We talk about the show. There's some good topics of conversation there. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I never finished. We never finished The Wire, and I never got around to talking about the last 3 seasons.
You never finished The Wire?
No, I finished The Wire,
and
we never did a stream talking about especially season final season 5, season 4, heck, even season 3 with Amsterdam, or I think it's isn't it Amsterdam, New Amsterdam, or
New Amsterdam, yeah.
New Amsterdam, yeah. So yeah, so we should probably do something like that. I do want to do. I've been meaning to rewatch The Wire. So obviously my opinion on that changed, started off kind of equivalent, but then, learned a little bit more about the type of show it is. So, yeah.
Cool.
All right. But anything else you want to promote?
Nah, man, my life is subsumed with work and baby stuff and I'm gonna be going back doing my next rotation. So I'll be overseas doing things with stuff in places. Can't tell you about, or I'd have to kill you.
I see. Okay. DJ Ryan G, watch Stargate SG1, of course. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for being here. So we got a lot of viewers from X, and YouTube is useless like usual. So, but yeah. So Sunday is going to be the final book club for Fires of Heaven. So definitely be there. Dane won't be there, but we're Nathan's coming back. I imagine I texted him. I'm like, Nathan, damn it, man, I need you, Nathan. I need you. This is your one of your top 3. You have to be on at least once. And he's like, you know what, Brian? I'll listen to the final 10 chapters for you and everything, because you're a great guy. So, well, he didn't say that, but he said I'll read I'll listen to the final 10 chapters.
He said, because you're a dipshit from Chicago. That's what he said.
No comments. But yeah, so that's gonna be on Sunday. Other streams, I think there will be a Chillporeal next week. This can be more Lord of the Rings driven. So we'll be talking about that, and
nice.
I'll have to think of another type of stream. Maybe I'll do a movie stream again or something, or
you can
TV
do the
show
SB1
stream
that the chat wants you to do.
So hey, even me. So you know what? I do have to admit though, I can say I proudly associate with the White Cloaks. I proudly associate with PIPS.
Man, I don't even proudly associate with PIPS.
Well, that's because you're toxic horse. But hey, what can I say?
Extremely toxic.
Extremely toxic. So, but yeah, man. Once again, thanks for doing this. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with me and my some of my outbursts. I'll do better. I'll do better. Better. All right. And yeah, everybody, take care. Have a great night. It's Chillporeal.
Walk in the light. See you later.